Welcome to the Mum Dem podcast.
By the Mum Dem?
For the Mum Dem.
But. Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Oh, that was a good intro.
It's been a long day.
I know, and it's hot. It's hot today. I'm like, what's my name, guys?
This is
I
Emma.
always do this. Hi, I'm Emma.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Kamilah.
And today we have a special guest, another special guest. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Rashida Boateng. I am a creative educational entrepreneur.
Oh,
And I'm really excited to be with you guys today.
we're excited to have you.
Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
So we always kick off the Mum Dem Pod in the same way, and we ask about the birth story of your first child. You have
Okay.
two beautiful children. We want to hear about the first one. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about a lot of your different creative projects and learning from your very cool and very meandering career.
Yeah, lots of different things.
For sure.
So, to start off, I had my daughter in 2011. The pregnancy was good. I was actually training to be a teacher during my pregnancy, and then had her 2 weeks after I finished training, literally. So I started off like this, and then it was out here by the time I finished. But she came early, 2 weeks early, so I had her 38 weeks. Wasn't expecting to have her, obviously. But what happened is my husband and I, we got up, get ready for church, and I went into the bathroom and I was like, honey, I'm bleeding. So that was a little bit of a shock. And it was a bit worrying as well, because we'd recently heard of quite a few people that had lost their babies in quite a lot, like far along. So I don't know if that news triggered some kind of worry in me, actually, because I'd literally heard a couple of days before a couple that we'd known. And then we called because we were supposed to have a water birth in a birthing centre. So I called them and they were like, you can't come here, you've got to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, both quite shocked because we wasn't expecting it. So we were like, okay. They checked her out and she was okay, like there was still a heartbeat and everything, but it was high risk, so they had to keep me on a monitor for most of the time. And then they said because there were signs of a little bit of distress, they have to keep a monitor on for the whole time and induce labour. So that's the process of her coming. And then labour came on. Again, it was induced, so it was very different to my second birth, where I actually felt the labour pain straight away. And then I think for me, it was a little bit of a, I felt calm throughout the whole thing, but it was a little bit traumatic in that when I was pushing, they'd given me an epidural quite close to being quite dilated. So from my understanding now, and this is why I didn't want an epidural for my second one, because I feel like you need to almost feel the pain to push. Mm-hmm. So I would look on the monitor and I could tell I was having a contraction, and they were telling me to push, but I couldn't feel the pain enough to push properly, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the contractions are useful.
They're very useful. So that's why I opted the next time. I was like, I just want gas and air and painkillers or whatever else you give, because I felt like I was at a bit of a disadvantage because I wasn't sure when to push when they were telling me to push. And then when she was kind of there, like my daughter is so funny. When she was in the belly, she was so moving. Like you see a foot there, like elbow in the rib, like she's really active. And then I could really sense that she'd gone past the opening passage when she was going. And I was trying to tell them, I can feel the push that way, not that way. And they weren't listening to me. So I hear this so much when people have children that people aren't listening to them. And you kind of know your body. It's your body. You can feel it. And I was like, I feel like she's just gone like this. And I kept on saying it. And they were like, no, it's fine. Just push. And then I was like, no, I really feel the push that way. And then, like, you know, when you're lying this way, I could see the kind of midwife go like this with her eyes and then run out the room. And then in runs the doctor.
Oh, here we go.
The doctor comes in, literally looks, goes like this. And I was like thinking, what's going on? Looking at my husband, looking at I'm sure he wasn't like really in the room, to be fair. And then the man just came, literally snipped me. It's called episiotomy, but it was a snip. To literally just open, because she had, in fact, it was her neck that was in the passage. And I don't know, again, if she had like because she's a little acrobat in there. So, because when they actually did pull her out, I could see that the umbilical cord was there, and you just, but they don't tell you, because they don't want to alarm you. But I noticed from her kind of wide eyes and the fact that but she had gone past. So she'd gone from her head being there to like almost curving round. Oh, wow. So they just had to like pull her out and stuff. So she was totally fine. I looked, it was fine. Obviously, totally drugged up, so I didn't feel the pain. But it was more the aftermath. So during the whole labour, I remember the midwives being really attentive, like completely attentive, people there all the time. And then I remember after having her, the doctor as well, he was so clinical, that it was just like, and I felt, sorry for the graphics, guys, but when you feel like you're being dragged back together and like sewn, like someone who does not know how to sew and needle and thread. So I was just like, so it was just this really awkward, because you've just like got this baby in your hand, and then you feel like you're being sewn together, and it was like, oh, this is so awkward. And then it was, by the time they'd kind of like done everything, it was time for everyone to go. Everyone left. My husband had to leave because at the time he had to like leave at 8 o'clock. I can't remember what time it was, but he had to leave. And then everyone was gone. And I was just sitting in the room. And like literally no one had come to clean me either.
Oh no, and
so
you had stitches.
Stitches. I'm sitting on the bed. Like my mum was there, but she was traumatised by the whole thing, because she just kept on saying, I've never seen so much blood in my whole life. She was saying all this stuff. I was like, thanks. And then
this is what I need to hear right now.
I think my husband, like, she was in shock. It's obviously her child's there. And then everyone had gone. And I was like thinking, when you're sitting in the room thinking, is anyone going to come in soon? Like, I hadn't eaten.
Oh, no.
And then I remember having my phone calling my husband. I was like, honey, like, nobody's come to clean me up. And they haven't, like, I haven't had any food. So he had to, like, come back. He got me, like, a sandwich or something from the shop, and then came back to ask if he can come in, and said nobody's come to clean her up. So that was a bit annoying too. But I think because I was so out of it, I didn't really, like, I don't know, what do? You can't advocate for yourself on the bed. And then, so eventually, when he came back, like, he saw to it that everything was done, and then had obviously brought me some food. And then the next day, they were like, I had to stay to have blood transfusion, because obviously I'd lost all that blood. But I also think it's probably because they didn't really check or do anything afterwards, because I was literally sitting there for quite a while, and I was so uncomfortable. So that was a bit much. But because it's my first experience, I didn't realise that it was not normal, if you get what I mean.
You don't know what to expect.
You don't know what to expect. I think, like I said, I felt very cared for up until the process, but afterwards it was like, right, baby's out, you're fine, and then the energy of like having to then feeling weak, but then not realising that actually it's because you've lost a lot of blood and having to recover. But it was good. They were good. I mean, because she was here and she was okay and safe, and I'd thought of all the other people and close people that hadn't had the blessing of actually getting their baby at the end. I think that was just my overwhelming. I'm just so grateful she's here and she's okay and she's, healthy. That was my main feeling, I think. It's only when I look back, even thinking about the aftermath, no one really talks about the pain afterwards if you've got any procedure done. It's like, you can't sit down for like 2 weeks and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Just the aftermath, but just the aftermath of giving birth, regardless of if you've had a C-section, if you've had to be snipped, if you've just had a vaginal birth, like, the aftermath is
a lot.
It is.
It's a lot.
It is. I mean,
you need recovery time.
Recovery time.
But I wanted to ask you, Rashida, when you spoke about the aftermath and the stitches and feeling like it wasn't done properly, and then the feeling weak and all of that kind of stuff, do you feel like that had any impact on you and the baby bonding?
I don't think so, funnily enough. I think because I'd seen my sister give birth, and like I've been quite engaged in the process with other people, I just always thought it's going to be hard.
Okay.
Because my sister had like a C-section for her first one, then the second one was a home birth, and I just thought women are I just thought they're superheroes, and then some. I had no fairy tale.
And you knew it would be rough.
I knew it would be rough, and
it
then
didn't put you off.
no. Do you know what?
That's
it
what
was
we
really
worry
funny.
about.
I know, because you don't want to say anything. But what was funny, that the midwife at my sister's birth was like, Do you know that Ring of Fire? I'd never heard of it. But the funniest thing, she was sitting there, she was going...
Ring of Fire? What?
The ring, you haven't heard of the Ring of Fire? When you push the baby out and the head's there, that's the Ring of Fire.
When it's the most painful point.
And when I remember, what did I say to you after? I was saying to everyone, because with my second, that's when I had a vaginal birth.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the Ring of Fire. I literally was like, I said to the midwife, the Ring of Fire. And they were like, keep pushing.
I've actually never heard.
Have you not?
Really?
And I've heard of it, but not.
Literally, the woman, but she didn't.
Anyway.
She said,
But you know the feeling.
Yeah, you know that you know it. The woman said she goes to my sister in the sweetest voice, in a minute, it's going to feel like your whole body's going to split in two. But it's okay. You'll get through it. And I was there like...
You'll get through it.
And my sister's there like, yes, in the birth pool. And I thought, I am not having a baby for a while. This is, like, if you need birth control, people, you need to go and watch someone give birth. When she said
That's
that,
this podcast.
I was like, time out, honey, we can wait a few more years. Like, it was so funny. I thought people out here are risking their lives.
They are, though.
They are, literally are.
But once you get the baby, that is the
absolutely,
most amazing feeling.
And I felt I felt so bonded to my daughter in the belly. So I think, like, I almost feel sorry for dads because it takes them time afterwards. But I knew her, she knew me, we knew each other literally from the moment. Although it was hard, even like her being on like my chest, because there was this woman again, I think she'd done midwifery in Ghana or something actually, and she even said, oh, just lay the baby on your chest and let her find you. So I had all these really beautiful experiences where it wasn't, they didn't let me out actually because they didn't see her feed, but she was feeding all night, and I kept on telling people she was feeding, but when they woke up she was fastest. You know when they come to check you, and I was like, let me out of this place, she's eating. I was like, well, you better wake up, girl, and show them that you eat. But no, it was fine. So luckily, because I know it's not the same for a lot of people, luckily there wasn't like any impact on our bonding. So I was very, very grateful for that, because I know it's not for everybody.
Yeah, I think sometimes the aftermath of... When I was 18, I watched a really close friend of mine give birth.
Yeah.
And she had to be snipped. And the baby came out and she was bleeding, and we were really young at the time. Yeah. And I just remember her saying, like, I don't want the baby right now. I don't want the baby near me. She just didn't want the baby near her because she was in so much... She was so traumatized. Young, so I know that can be... quite traumatic, especially when you're meant to be bonding with a baby, and you know
that is
like
very
you say
real.
About advocating for yourself. It's really difficult to find the balance of advocating for yourself, but also building this bond with this baby, and there's a lot of pressure on mothers.
There's a lot of pressure.
Suddenly the baby's out. There you go. You're a mother.
Yeah, and a lot of people. I know it sounds bad to say, but a lot of people aren't actually maternal. Like you're supposed to. Like people say, oh, you just find this magic thing, and for some people it doesn't come. Or even I've seen people who you'd think would be more maternal haven't been, and then people that you wouldn't imagine have just turned into like this super mum. So you can never predict how you're going to be or how you're going to feel, or you sometimes feel guilty, like if you're too tired. But like I always am so grateful for seeing other people go through it before me, because it kind of prepared me to think, even if I do feel that, it's normal. Even if, something happens. That's why I think it's really important for women to talk and to share, because otherwise you think, oh, is it only me that's feeling this? Or, but childbirth can be completely traumatic. Like I said, I've witnessed and seen many ups and downs in relation to childbirth, and I think it really helps me to have a lot of respect for women who give birth, and also not to judge anybody in their journey, or because we're all unique and the experience is different. So got to give mums a lot of grace.
Absolutely. It's
and
hard
support,
job, isn't it? Yes.
So
that leads us on nicely to our next question about being a mum. So for you, Rashida, what has been your favourite thing about being a mum?
I'd say everything. That's so cheesy. Do you know what? I always say this to people, but I feel like my children give me a life, have given me so much life. I feel like, especially my daughter, first of all, I just found some power when she was like inside me, because I was quite a tomboy before, funnily enough, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I can't impart this onto her. Like, we start wearing, like, 'cause I was wearing all dresses and stuff, and I was like pregnant. But then it helped me to get into my feminine. I was like, okay then, this is okay. It's okay to, like, she's a tomboy, just so you know. So it didn't work. But so it just, and I thought, the first thing I thought is, I don't want her to experience what I've experienced. I don't want her to have the self-talk that I talk to myself about herself. Imagine if she experiences what I've experienced. You know, there was just so many things. And then I realised, if I want her to be something, I have to be the real deal. I can't pretend or impart anything onto my children that I don't do for myself. Yeah. And like, so it kind of put me into action, if anything. So it sounds very selfish, because it's actually, I'm talking about myself. But I feel like, because I just thought she deserves a better person to be her mum than who I am authentically right now. And I think it kind of kick-started a journey of just being a better me, funnily enough. And the same for my son. He, oh my goodness, like, is so encouraging and speaks so much power into my life. It's like, Mum, you're beautiful. You know, like, he says all the, he's so affectionate. Like, my daughter's a power queen. She'll be like, you know, she's got a lot of powerful woman in her. So she reminds me to, like, level up. Like, you're powerful. Yes, hold your head up. And then my son just reminds me, he just speaks, he just very encouraging. So, and then I feel like, guys, I want to give you because you give me everything. It's not even in that exchange. Even if they didn't do that, I would still pour into them. But I feel like I'm the one that's blessed a lot of the time. I'm like, I don't know what I've done to deserve you guys, but thank you. Yeah. I feel like they give me a lot, I must admit. I've been very lucky.
I can relate to that a lot when you're saying about being a better person for them, because I think day in, day out, that's all I try to do for my children, just be the best version of myself I can be. So I love that. Yeah. You can't tell them to do stuff that you're not doing for yourself. Because they will call you out on it.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah. They call you out on it. Exactly. Like, they see everything. And then I think all the things that I maybe think, like, as children ourselves, we have opinions of our mums and our dads. And I'm thinking they're going to have opinions of me. And so I'm like, what am I reflecting in the house? You know, there's so many things, but they keep you on check. If you need to be kept on check, have a child. Have a little person in your house that will hot you up for everything. That is definitely...
It's for real.
Top life hack.
I know.
These kids.
A life hack.
And the way they're so quick, my daughter anyway, so quick to correct. She will run. If she figures out something's wrong, she'll run to wherever the person is just to come and correct her.
Definitely.
Oh, but great. Oh, that's great. Thank you. So, next question is, what's the best piece of parenting advice that you've had?
That I received?
That you've received.
That you've received, yeah. And that you'd like to share with our Mum Dem.
Do you know, I feel like observation has been the best teacher, if that makes any sense.
Explain.
Watching mums do it well has been the best advice. I could say, like, I know this is not superficial, but genuinely, knowing people like sleep when the baby sleeps and all these different kind of things. But the best kind of advice I've had is seeing women reflect, like, be good women, and seeing their children observe them, and also reflect back what they see. So I used to, like, babysit a lot in church, because I go to a church, and then I used to, like, watch, very observational, like, staring at people, the family dynamics. Yeah. And I used to think, oh, wow, because that mum is like that, their children are like this, if you get what I mean. So I think the best thing for me personally is just being observing.
It's really funny you say that.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking earlier about how your kids give so much to you, I've been privileged enough to see you with your children when they were very young, before I was a mum. And I remember saying to my husband, I want to be a mum like Rashida, because Rashida's so warm, and the way you do activities with your kids. And, like, now it comes quite naturally to me that I will, like, you know, sit down with them, do the Lego, do a science experiment, involve them in cooking, but it didn't initially. Yeah. And the reason I knew I can get a 2-year-old to make some pizza dough is because I remember being in your kitchen when your daughter was like 1.5, 2, and you were getting her to roll the dough, and I was so shocked because I was like, she's too young. Babies can't do this. And you were doing it with so much patience and grace, because obviously she kept like getting it too close to the side or messing it up, and you would say well done and be really positive and affirming, and then just push it back over, add some more flour and let her carry on. She had so much fun. Then you finished it off, and I remember how proud she was to eat the homemade pizza she made. And I can think of so many more stories like that where I've seen you pour into your kids, take one of your passions. So you were a food tech teacher. You cook a lot. You're a brilliant cook, and teaching your kids those skills. I've been at your house and you're like, we're going to make cupcakes. My kids love being at your house because you'll just pull them into the kitchen to make something. And it's become very natural. But then equally, one of the reasons why you're one of my like Mum Dem role models is we both had, you know, quite difficult things in our childhood to overcome, and lots of, you know, dark, heavy trauma. And both of us have been very keen to not pass that on, to like, you know, break certain generational curses and just keep it moving. Yet with your kids, you're so light and you're so positive. So me seeing you do that showed me that I can be that kind of mum too. And it's so interesting that you have been an example whilst also watching other examples. I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think as well, it's just to add to that, I think like you were saying, your son's encouraging and your daughter's a power woman, and you're all of those things as well. And like, I feel whenever I see Rashida, she always encourages me. And I remember one day, you probably don't even know this, we were at Rachel's house, probably for one of the kids' parties, and you were like to me, you're just gorgeous. And I felt so ugly that day. Like I was like, I didn't even have time to do my hair properly. And and it was so genuine. And I went home and I said to Eric, oh, Rashida's amazing. He was like, what did she say? And he's like, I said you look pretty. I'm like, you didn't really mean so. Rashida meant it.
That's why he married me.
But it was just sometimes when you hear things from another woman, you know, and I think you are an example of that. So it goes to show that what you do project and put out there, your kids do pick it up and they do imitate that. Sure. And then, you know, we obviously want them to be the best versions of themselves they can be, which forces us to be the best versions of ourselves.
It's so true. Do you know what? Thank you for being encouraging, by the way, because I'm just like trying to not shrink into the chair. But yeah, no, I honestly believe that we reflect stuff, and seeing really good mums has just been love. Like it's fed me, if you get what I mean. And like Rachel, you mentioned, just coming from like a lot of trauma, it's easy to let that kind of like be the thing that motivates you to not do something in motherhood, or no, you don't realise what you're passing on. And that's why I think really looking after yourself in terms of healing those things is one of the best things we can do for our children, because we subconsciously pass on a lot. And again, like I noticed that from just standing back and observing other people, I'm like, I know a bit about that person's story and I can see it manifesting in their relationship with their child, and I'm just like, oops, like, but that could be me. I could be doing that. A big thing was, you know, when your kids do anything, you're like watching them being so cautious. Like, for instance, I lost a sibling she was young, and it made me really cautious about everything. And you want to wrap your children up in cotton wool. But part of healing from that and being like, no, actually, they have to live their life. I can't now make them not, you know, be wrapped up in cotton wool because I feel, you know, a burden or a grief about something. I have to. Each one of us has to live our life. Do you get what I mean? But yeah, I don't think motherhood. Even as we're talking about, I'm like, there's so many things. There's so many mistakes we make as well. But there's so many things that it just draws a lot out of you. I think like motherhood, especially if you do it consciously, draws a lot out of you. You have to really go inside and say, okay. One of the things I remember that I did bad, don't know if I'm speaking about that, is I remember like your words are so powerful to children. And I remember saying to Bailey a couple of times when she was young, why'd you do that? What's wrong with you? Like that. Woo! And then a couple of times she was like, oh, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And you know when your heart breaks, and it was not in that context. It was in 2 different contexts. I heard her say, what's wrong with me? And I thought, why are you saying that? And then I just heard myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to be that negative voice in your head that is telling you what's wrong with you. Can you imagine? I felt so guilty for ages, but I'm so glad that I registered. So I think you've got to be reflective on the words that come out of your mouth, because I was like, why has she got low self-confidence? What does she mean, what's wrong with her? And I was like, Rashida, that was you put that in her head. And I was just like, forgive me. And then I just had to like have the conversation and just mentally say to myself, do not put those words into your child's head. There's nothing wrong with her. So words I think are very powerful with children, especially in their formative years.
I like that you said being a conscious parent, thinking consciously and being self-reflective, because it's so important to be, in order to be, you know, we give our best, right? But we only give our best if we're aware of who we are. So,
Absolutely.
Wow.
Lovely. So we've got another question, but just before we go on to that, you were talking about the words being really important, and it just jogged my memory. I said in the last episode I went to Norway to see my best friend. And one thing that she does is she tries not to say "be careful" to her children, and the reason she's trying not to say that is because we could say that 20 times a day. Be careful, be careful, be careful, and that's not guiding them in any way. We have to be specific. So if they're walking close to the road, it's not "be careful," it's "stop walking so close to the road." If they're climbing something, you want them to be careful. Watch where you're putting your foot. Your foot might slip, rather than "be careful, be careful." So it's when you're saying those words, I was like, in so many different areas, those words that we use are important to moulding and guiding these children.
A good point. I read something about how saying "be careful," which is said way more to girls than to boys, it can teach us to almost shrink into ourselves and be overly vigilant. So I'm not perfect at this. I definitely still say "be careful," but I have made a conscious effort to not say that, but for slightly different reasons. So yes, being specific is good, and that's part of it, but also I am my child's safety net, right? I'm there. If they fall, I'm going to catch them. I'm always close enough and keeping an eye. But when you're saying "be careful" all the time, you're almost teaching them that the world is inherently dangerous. And you're almost not allowing them to just explore and learn their own limits. Because if they are trying to climb a tree and they fall off, as my daughter does all the time, they'll learn how far to climb. They'll learn how to find the right branch. And like as a kid, I was scared of everything all the time. I can still be like that as an adult. In some ways, I'm obviously I'm an entrepreneur. I'm very like risky in that regard. But in other ways, like I never climbed a tree as a child. It's only actually as a parent that I've had to climb trees with my kids, but not in the same way. Like I can only go so far. I just didn't learn the skill. So with both of my kids, but particularly my daughter, instead I force myself to say, you can do it, go for the next branch, see if you can grab the next thing, and I see the difference in their confidence compared to like how I felt as a child. So less kind of "be careful" and more let's see how far you can go, and being there to physically catch them when they're scared, I think makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Good.
I think what you mentioned before in that example with the baking, one of the things, and I actually learned as a teacher is, or I try to implement as a teacher, I'm not sure where it came in, is create an environment for success so that they can be successful. So rather than saying don't do something, like with my daughter, for instance, if I'm doing something, I'll make sure everything's weighed out. Or so although she's putting all the ingredients in and she's mixing it, it's going to work because it's the right ingredients. So, and as she gets older, the next step is, why don't you weigh out these ingredients? And then as she gets older, did you know that 1 egg equals 50 grams of everything else? Like, so just to that incremental teaching. So again, if she's going to have a bit of wild play, I'd barricade her in and cover. So you'd forever see me throwing cushions on all the sharp edges in the room. Then you can get on with it. If you drop, you drop. Or just put in some, like, the duvet at the bottom of the stairs. If you drop down the stairs, there's a duvet at the bottom.
That's hilarious.
Do you get what I mean?
I remember when your son went through a Spider-Man phase. And he was just jumping off of anything he could get onto. He would jump off and be like, Spidey.
Yeah.
But he made sure he was safe.
I was
Nothing
like,
was broken.
I can't stop him. Like, just take away all of the sharp objects. If he hurts his foot, he hurts his foot, but at least he's not going to die. It's like on those. But just creating that environment where they can be free, and also if it's something they need to accomplish, age appropriately providing that success model for them so that they can, you know, gain that confidence as well.
For sure. Wow.
Yeah.
So much to learn.
Question,
So you are a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur working on numerous projects. And today I guess we'll focus on your role as a creative educator. So what is it really like for mums in creative education? What's it like for you?
For me personally, I feel like mums in any job is always a tussle, and it's about what am I going to prioritize today and that kind of thing. In terms of creativity, I felt and can sometimes feel that although I have all this energy and creativity, my liberty is sometimes not in the same lane. Like it can be kind of restricted. So you're like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I've always been energetic, out doing this, that, doing the most. And then I have these two children that emotionally need me a lot. I have a husband who has a very demanding job. And I'm like, a house that needs cleaning, you know, so much to do. And then I've got my thing. So I feel like over the years, it's been a lot about carving space for myself. What I was very conscious to do is not to do me at the liberty of my family, if that makes any sense. Because in my instance, and this isn't the same for all women because everyone has different dynamics, I knew that my family has to be my ministry somewhat, or my focus, because if I can get deep dived into something and not be available. And if there's two parents like that, that's going to be quite difficult. And then my children are very expressive, emotional, you know, absorbing everything around them. So I was very aware of that. So I'm like, okay, a lot of the time with my creative endeavours, I've had to bring them along the journey. And I found that really actually beneficial. So like my daughter, my son, well, how's it going? How's your project going, Mum? You know, like, or like at various different times, they've been able to interact with the educational stuff. They've been on some of my songs, for instance. Bailey, for instance, that's my daughter, exposing her name, but she's okay. She wrote a bridge, for instance, for one of my songs, and it's literally the most catchiest one of the whole album.
Which one is it?
She done Wiggle Your Toes in the
Oh, no way.
Yeah, both of them, like
Did I tell you when I came downstairs one day and my kids were just singing that?
Yeah, literally, I think
children know what children
they
like.
know what they like. So they literally have been there, and like, so for instance, when I was a teacher, Bailey loved coming to my school. She was like, it was not by choice. Like when we moved house, my husband worked far and then we couldn't move her school. So sometimes I had to leave school at the end of the day, go and get her, rush back to school to kind of do my marking, my finish off the day. Luckily, I worked in a kitchen / classroom. So she'd sit there, do her homework, watch me do what I was doing. I'd make her something quickly to eat. Luckily, I was in the kitchen. And then she loved it, though. She was like, this is great. Yeah. She enjoyed seeing me work. Ezra too, you know, I've got a little office. They love coming to my office. Their dad has a big, shiny, glossy office. There they feel like bosses. They're like this. But in my office, they get creative. There's pens, papers, there's stuff to do. So I think the creativity, it's really encouraged me to involve them. It's a lot slower than if I was doing it like as a free agent. But I've learned along the way. They've been able to input. It's a legacy project, so I'm sure they'll be able to take over at some point in life. But yeah, the pace isn't necessarily what I envisaged, but the journey has been worth it, and what it has done for them and what I've gained in the process has been really helpful.
It's definitely worth slowing the pace for emotionally healthy children.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And I think the art will evolve at its own pace anyway. So it might be that you end up with a better project than you would have if you rushed it out and gone with your hurry up driver.
Yeah, do you know, it's so funny because when the whole educational project was born out of me not having stuff to interact with my daughter with. So for instance, you know, you have tummy time or songs. There used to be this channel called Baby TV. I'm sure it's still there. No shade on Baby TV. It gave me hours of endless, you know, peaceful moments while Bailey watched it. But what used to happen is some of the songs were really nonsensical. And I was like, if kids can learn so much, why is she singing na, na, na? And there was one Caribbean song, and it was like, I think the lyrics was jam in Jamaica, do Rastafari. Sing to do what you love, love, love. And I was like...
Banging tune.
I was like, seriously? But first of all, the authenticity being a Caribbean, I was like, guys, come correct. And then the other thing was
Rastafari.
Rastafari, you know. So, you know, I've had lots for many years. They're gone now. But, you know, I was just like, this is not it. So it just born about, I do want to sing with my child. I do want her to enjoy the songs, but I also don't want them to be nonsensical. I believe that children can learn a lot and it can also be fun. Yeah. So it just sparked all this. I think kids can sometimes really spark a lot of creativity in you, but you have all these ideas and like I said, then what? Where? How? Where's the time? So it's been a true exercise of patience, but also just I've learned a lot. Even observing the kids and how they interact with nature has sparked a lot of ideas. And also observing how they interact with music, how they interact with books. It's just like having a case study in your house. So it has been positive, but it's just like the only thing I would say is it's not at my pace or time. So that's it really.
Lovely, thank you. So your next question, we're going to need a little bit of a backstory before you answer this question. So you've obviously come from being a food technician teacher. Yeah. And then you've got something called Rashida's Kitchen. Yeah. So your question is going to be, what should we as mums be teaching our children about nutrition? Yeah. But first I'm going to need a little bit of a backstory about Rashida's Kitchen. What is your mission? What are you doing with Rashida's Kitchen?
Okay, I'll try and be quick. It's
okay, we've got time.
Okay, that's all right. Just checking. Rashida's Kitchen is the kind of place to share my love of food, because since I was little, I've loved to cook. Not always successfully, but over the years I've learned a lot. And for me, I've always been like, how do you do this? Why? And whereas my mum, she worked a lot when we was young, there was no one at home generally. I used to watch her, which was good when she did cook, but I kind of learned from the TV, you know, like TV chefs and stuff. And then obviously my aunt as well taught me how to bake a cake and macaroni cheese and stuff. But so just, I love to teach people how to do things. Like, so I found that kids were really engaged in my lessons. And I thought there's loads of adults also that don't know how to cook. I was so shocked because you just assume everybody knows how to cook, but they really don't. So yeah, that was just it. That I'd love to teach. I want to teach people more about food, but also I love to grow food. So that also started off when I became a mum, because again, my daughter loved messy play, and I was like, I need somewhere to put her where she could like play in mud unrestricted. So we went to the local children's centre, and that's also my heritage. Both of my grandparents on both sides grew food and stuff, which I learned as time went on. But Rashida's Kitchen, and I do have a mission. I believe that food poverty around the world is rife in developing countries, and it's got nothing to do with provision. It's got nothing to do with the soil they have. It's about education. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is teaching people how to grow food and how easy it is. And you see a lot of people, they'll be starving, but they've got an ornamental plant in a pot outside their house. I'm like, why haven't you grown a potato or a tomato or something? Or if you've got soil, if you've got land, even now if you've got water, aquaponics, there's so many different things you can do to grow food, and I would like to bridge the gap. That's my long-term huge goal. Obviously not in my small
feed the world.
Feed the world. Because there's so much we can learn, and yeah, I don't think anybody should be hungry if they've got a patch of soil near them. No, it's not necessary. And I also think it's good for the environment and ultimately our mental health, our physical health. That's the long-term goal of Rashida's Kitchen. That the way I do it in terms of like on social media, I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to get lots of followers. I'm just at the moment being authentic and trying to build just a bank of stuff that I'm doing. And at some point, especially probably when I finish my educational creative project, I'll put a bit more structure to it. But within what I do with children, I do try and put in the food element, into that as well, because I think that is real education. at the end of the day, if you can't feed yourself, if you can't be healthy, if you don't know what you're doing, like, that's not true health. Like, at the end of the day, when there's a zombie apocalypse. I'm really joking.
You're going to need.
No, really.
Be like, my allotment.
Exactly. I am ready. No. I'm just trying to prepare them for everything. No, really.
So, if there were a zombie apocalypse, what is the thing that we need to be teaching our children about nutrition?
Where food comes from.
Okay.
And the fact that if you look after soil, you look after your body. We are like soil, the world is interconnected. I think that they should be empowered to grow food. When they grow it themselves, they eat it more. My children, they'll go out and they'll pick it. Ezra all week has been picking mint out of the garden, making himself peppermint tea. And me and Bailey. So he's like, I'm like, why are you going out to the front garden? 1 minute, and he comes in with the leaves. He even knows how to, like, wash it off properly. But you do that. You empower these kids. Like Bailey, I ask them every year, what do you want to grow? This year, Ezra, sweet corn. Bailey's always potatoes. But when I tell you, she goes, gets the potatoes and cooks her own lunch, cooks her own breakfast. So just giving them that autonomy, and then also saving seeds. Like, it doesn't have to be expensive. Yeah. But my main thing is definitely looking after the soil, looking after the environment, and learn how to grow something. Even if you start with one thing, easiest thing, maybe a tomato, a potato. Do you get what I mean?
I did just grow some tomatoes, and I was sending Rashida my plants. You know, you said they were leggy before.
Yeah.
They're massive.
And they're bushing out.
When I go to Ghana, can you water them?
Yeah.
Like, literally, I had a tomato, like an organic tomato that had rolled out in the veg bin in my fridge, and it was getting a bit shriveled, and I was going to throw it away. Then I was like, no. I cut it in half. I put half in 2 pots in soil, and I was like channeling Rashida. And they grew. And one of them, I thought it did. Well, I covered it with like a plastic Tupperware lid to make like a fake little greenhouse kind of effect. I feel like I need to make a reel for Mum Dem.
I saw the pictures. You were good.
And then from that one shriveled tomato I was going to throw away, I've got like 5 or 6 tomatoes.
Literally,
this
share with the world.
Yeah, share with the world. And I was sending it to Rashida, and she was like, "There's too many in that pot. You need to take it out. You need to re-put it. Give them space. Take the baby one to do this." She gave me all the instructions. She was like, "You need to trim that. You need to, what was it? Plant it at a diagonal angle." So the roots can go down. There were so many tips.
There was because you had some roots coming out of the stem of one.
Yeah, it was like little hairs that wanted to be roots.
Yeah, and I was saying if you plant it in,
the cells were still like,
Listen, this is what you teach your kids.
Yeah,
and the thing is, make mistakes. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like at the beginning, you plant a potato, you get like 1 or 2 potatoes after months of waiting. So you will get things wrong. But by the time they just grow a little bit, they're like, oh, okay, it's better. Like where I was at the beginning to where I am now is night and day. And that has been every year. I was thinking about it. It's been like 13 years. And really, you only get 1 season to grow every year. So it's like 13 attempts, really. You can do things over, winter. But really, 13 attempts isn't a lot. That's not a lot. Do you get what I mean? And to be so bountiful, I've had the last couple of years, I've had so much food. Like, been able to sell some, I've been able to do, there's so much you can do. I give so much away. And I just think kids get to see, and it brings alive a lot of life principles. Just the concept of, really, a lot of us throw that tomato in the bin. But realistically, 1 tomato can make probably 30 more tomato plants.
How many people it can feed?
How many people can that feed? Wow. We obviously don't need that many, and we're always told, food's running out, food poverty, but it's not necessary. So
we waste so much food.
We waste so much.
We would just use that soil that we've got to grow. Like, we have an allotment. I'm not going to take credit for it. My husband goes to it. But I remember when my nephew's 15 now, but when he was about, say, 8 or 9, we asked him a question, like, where do apples come from? And he's like, from the shop. And that was his genuine answer until my husband took him for a day at the allotment. And it's just about educating them. They enjoy it more. When my husband brings home the callaloo, like the callaloo tastes so much better than the tin. It's frightening.
The same with tomatoes. I don't really like tomatoes unless they're in an allotment.
It's frightening how more delicious food taste.
Yeah.
Your own hands. You're like,
when it's fresh.
You're like,
oh
what
my
are
gosh,
they
is
doing
this
with it?
What calories
Well, like, is this what it's supposed to
Guys,
taste
I'm
like?
going to get an allotment tomorrow.
Literally.
Inspired us.
Do you know what the
And
funny thing is? I always say, don't overwhelm yourself.
Okay.
Everyone's
I'm aware of my garden.
Exactly.
Start with watering my tomatoes while I'm going.
You know, I actually have a herb garden
There
that's
you
just
go.
there doing its thing.
So just pay attention, even if you're not going to do nothing. The simple things we all need is light, water and food. So hopefully we nourish it enough that it has its own food. And I could go on and on forever about things like that, but biodiversity, getting different bugs, because we always we want these sterile environments, but we need bees, we need butterflies, we need ladybirds, we need beetles, we need all these different things to produce good, even like worms and stuff where you just
air the soil.
But to air the soil. So you teach kids these things, they stop getting creeped out about certain things, and they start to embrace them and see them as friends. We kind of live in an ecosystem. So it's just things like that, but start small. Even if you do something in a pot, like practice nurturing that pot, and then you'll get the bug yourself. You'll be like, oh, actually, let me try a grow bag and some potatoes. It's so, you can put that outside of your door. Do you get what I mean? And the kids can just water it. You say, just tell them, make sure the leaves aren't dry. The job that my kids have is to plant the front, to water the front and the back food that we grow in pots, or the pots. So it's the holidays now. They want to be lazy, but I'm like, make sure you water the plants. Do you get what I mean? I'll do the allotment. Sometimes they come with me. Sometimes they're like, oh, Mum, I'm so tired. But they do. And they come and they know what they're talking about now. They can start to identify plants. And it's just happened. I haven't sat them down, made them, learn this and learn that. They've just picked things up.
They've seen you.
They've
modeled it. Yeah.
Yes.
And also what you said about them eating the food that they've grown is such a good point. So my kids have gone through quite a long phase of we won't eat any vegetables except carrot sticks.
Yeah.
But then we did what did we grow? We grow some pea sprouts.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that's gross. But then as soon as they saw it, they're like, oh, try a little bit in my sandwich. They claimed they didn't like it, but then they were cutting off more and adding it to their food. Yeah. And it was like they're actually having a bit of a salad on the side. Yeah. Or beans. Suddenly, now they're eating sugar snap peas all the time. And then they'll continue to eat those foods. Yeah. But it started from them growing it. And we even did a really, really lazy one. When you can buy like the living salad. Yeah. All they had to do was water it and keep it alive, but they would eat that salad. They wouldn't eat any other salad. They'd eat the living salad. It does make a huge difference. Genuinely. It makes it like it's play.
Yeah, they do.
And they're proud.
They're proud of it. Strawberries are easy. Mint, but grow mint in pot because it'll take over your whole garden. Now, there's loads of different things you can do that the kids will kind of, without even knowing, they'll just get used to it, and they'll start to notice the difference in taste as well. Even my husband, I remember once I'd grown sweet corn and I brought it home and just cooked it, and he was like, is this for Ma? Like, sometimes he doesn't get involved, but like when the food comes,
when he tastes it,
then he gets involved. But sometimes you can't believe it's that sweet because you're not used to tasting it fresh. And stuff, so it's fun for the whole family. But definitely start with something, even if it's small. Always get your kids to just grow something, anything. In class they used to do cress. Yeah. Or remember it was like cress or like a bean sprout or something called shoot. But genuinely, I think that's the future.
Oh, this has been so educational, so informative, so fun. Thank you so much, Rashida. We've loved having you on. I definitely have learned a lot about nutrition myself, and hopefully we'll try and impart it. But yeah, we have a gift for you to say thank you.
Thank you.
Pass it along.
You guys are so sweet.
It's from our season sponsor, Leha Beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I bought candles from there. Leha, listen, this is a good gift. I'll open it later. Do I open it now or later?
You go now.
No, Leha.
Have a look inside.
Guys, they're good.
We love seeing.
Love a bit of Leha, so thank you very much. I even bought something from my aunt from here as well.
Have you smelled the Idan oil? I feel like you'll love that.
I need to smell it.
So that's the shea butter.
Yeah.
That's a natural.
So
I know.
That's not the one with
it's
the
natural.
Smell. It's the other two.
I can smell the truth.
Yeah.
I know.
The
authenticity. Yeah.
It's
no, this is beautiful. Even the little tote bag.
Cute. We'll be using that as a screen grab.
No, yeah, I do love Leha, so thank you a lot.
Good.
Very welcome.
So yeah, thank
Good
you
gift.
for
To help
coming
you
on.
to take a moment for yourself.
Yes,
that
I will.
self-care for mums is so important.
I will.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in again.
Yeah, thank you. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. We really appreciate all the support that we've gotten and appreciate you sharing and listening along. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.